All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. After a wild card round where all four series were 2-0 sweeps, we're going to see who has what it takes to survive and advance to the league championship series in both the American and National Leagues. Now, I want to get things kicked off in the American League, and I'm going to talk about the Texas Rangers set to get it on tomorrow with the Baltimore Orioles. Now, for the Rangers, after hitting a slump heading into the postseason, they found their groove against the Tampa Bay Rays this week, and now they'll have to deal with another American League East team in the Orioles. Now, for Texas, first things first, will they be able to get the pitching that they got in the first round against Tampa Bay? We got to wait and see on that. But nonetheless, you know that the Rangers are going to hit with the likes of Adolis Garcia, Corey Seager, and Marcus Semien, just to name a few in that lineup. And then on the flip side for the Orioles, we're talking about a team that had the best record in the American League this year, won 101 games, but hardly anybody is talking about them. And not just winning 101 games, they did it in the American League East. And I know that things have not gone too good for the AL East so far here in this postseason, but nonetheless, still admire for my money the best division in baseball. You had four teams finish with winning records, three of them make the postseason. Obviously, things have not worked out here so far, but this Orioles team is still legit. You look at their pitching, and I think their pitching is going to be very important in this series with the likes of Dean Creamer, Kyle Bradish, and of course Kyle Gibson. And of course, it's going to be Kyle Bradish that's going to get the ball tomorrow for game number one at Camden Yards. This lineup with Anthony Santander, Gunnar Henderson, and Ryan Mountcastle. What are they going to be able to do against this Texas pitching staff? Now, obviously, Texas has to have a lot of confidence right now. They're feeling good after they just swept Tampa Bay, and they're obviously looking to go to Camden Yards and get one game at least. But I'll tell you like this, Camden Yards is going to be rocking. Camden Yards and the folks in Baltimore have been waiting for this for a very long time. And I think what the Orioles are going to have to do is similar to what we saw from the Minnesota Twins. I think Minnesota really was able to feed off of that home crowd as they swept the Toronto Blue Jays. I think Baltimore is going to need to try to do the same thing as well. And they got to go out there early and make an impact. I think go out there and maybe get a home run, maybe get some early runs to kind of keep that crowd in a frenzy for game number one. Definitely Texas is going to want to try to go out there and steal a game, but I think this is going to be a back and forth series. But when it's all said and done, I'm going to give Texas the slight edge, and I'm going to take the Rangers to advance in 5 games. CJ, how you doing, bud? I will get to the National League soon, and I know you got plenty to say about that. So the other American League series, you got the Minnesota Twins taking on the defending World Series champions in the Houston Astros. And for the Twins, you got to be feeling good if you're the Twins. You finally won a playoff series for the first time since 2002. You were able to slay the dragon, if you will, as far as that postseason, jinx. Obviously, it wasn't against the Yankees. So, if you're the Twins, you got to be happy. But nonetheless, Minnesota's riding a wave of momentum of their own, and they definitely want to keep it going against the defending champs. What is this pitching staff for Minnesota going to be able to do against this veteran and savvy Houston Astros lineup? You got the former Astro coming back to town and Carlos Correa, and then the likes of Royce Lewis and Max Kepler in this lineup for the Twinkies. But then I keep talking about these battle-tested Houston Astros, and of course, manager Dusty Baker just continues to push all of the right buttons. And now, of course, the Astros are going to turn to the legend, if you will, Justin Verlander, tomorrow afternoon for game number one and give him the ball to try to win the game, win the contest at home. Framber Valdez, what is it? What is he going to get or give rather to Houston as well as this bullpen? Then I look at this Houston lineup. These guys know what to do in October. Yordan Alvarez is one of the most dangerous hitters in October right now because you think about a guy that can change the dynamic of a contest very quickly. And if you leave something hanging over the plate, it's gone. especially if he's got men on base. And those are momentum changers. When he hits home runs, those are momentum changers. And then you got the likes of Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, and then for Jose Abreu, his first time in the postseason after so many years with the Chicago White Sox. What's he going to look like on the big stage? So I know some people are going to say, will the Twins be ready? I think that they will. And I think that if you're Minnesota, you definitely want to keep the momentum going for your wild card series. You definitely want to try to go out there and steal game number one. It's not going to be easy. Houston is a different animal than the Toronto Blue Jays are. I think the Twins will be game, but when it's all said and done, I'm going to take the Stros to advance in 4 games. Now, moving on to the National League. And of course, I'm going to be talking about the first series, the Philadelphia Phillies and the Atlanta Braves. This one right here reminds me of when the Dodgers and Giants met a couple of years ago in the wild card round. Of course, that year the Dodgers won 106 games, the Giants won 107, thus they won the NL West. First time those two clubs ever met in the postseason, and I really felt then that we got cheated as baseball fans from the standpoint that I really felt that that series should have been a 7 game series. Obviously, the rules are a little bit different for the divisional round. I totally understand that. But my point is, I really think that this Phillies Braves series would have been better, as a 7 game set as opposed to a 5 game set. Nonetheless, I think this is going to be a battle because both of these teams really have what it takes to win the World Series. And of course, unfortunately, for these two division rivals, somebody's going to be going home after a darn good season. Now, you got a lot of people, first and foremost, that have already, penciled in the Braves to win the World Series. Easier said than done because, we've seen, in the past where teams, come in after having phenomenal regular seasons and then they just run into a hot team or they themselves hit a wall and they just can't get over the hump. But, this Braves team is legit, and so are the Phillies. And and with that said, I think buckle up for a war. Obviously, you got a Braves team that's looking for revenge. After last year, where the Phillies came out of nowhere and beat them in 4 games, and of course, Philadelphia came into that series with a ton of momentum after they swept St. Louis in the first round, kept it going, took care of the Braves in 4, and then they rode that momentum to a National League pennant. For the Phillies, they did what they were supposed to do. They got back to the postseason. They won the wild card, won 90 games. Then on top of that, they took care of the Miami Marlins like most of us expected them to do. But there's no love lost between these two divisional foes. You typically see each other 19 times a year, 13 times this year because they've decided to have this balanced schedule. I've talked about that before. But nonetheless, there's some bad blood there because I know, last month we saw the Braves, clinch the division in Citizens Bank on, Philly's home turf, which is all well and good. You can't stop the Braves from winning. If they win, they win. They clinch the division. It's fine. But a lot of people, took offense to, it being like the Braves being congratulated on the Phillies scoreboard out there at Citizens Bank, and I'm sure that that did not sit well uh, with uh, with the Phillies. Now, CJ, you're saying Acuna is on a different level this year, same as Matt Olson. Like I've said before, it's kind of like 1 and 1A as far as an MVP goes. Flip a coin, you can't go wrong with either one. Honestly, if you wanted to make this the first time since '79, when you had Willie Stargell and Keith Hernandez share the MVP honors, I wouldn't be mad at that because I mean, honestly, I think both of them are as important to that club. I mean, it's hard to argue with a guy like Matt Olson hitting 50 plus home runs and driving in about 130 runs. And then you look at Ronald Acuna, 40 plus home runs, 70 stolen bases, a plus 300 batting average, an on base percentage out of this world. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't overlook that and talk about how both of them have impacted this club. Again, you're saying last year the Braves were without Ozzy Albies, excuse me. They were also missing a couple of other guys as well, and now this time around, no Charlie Morton rather, but you're going to have Max Fried. You got Bryce Elder, you got Spencer Strider in that rotation for the Braves. And the Braves definitely have an edge. First and foremost, they're home. Second of all, being that the Phillies, had to go play in the wild card round, you know, the Braves rotation is set. So you're looking at it right now. Wheeler got the bump in game one for Philadelphia in that series with the Marlins. Then it was Aaron Nola. So now you're going to see those guys a little bit later in that series. And because of that, tomorrow night, you got Spencer Suarez going, pardon me, Rangers Suarez going for Philadelphia against Spencer Strider for Atlanta. So that's definitely an advantage right there for the Braves. But you look at these two lineups. I mean, obviously the Phillies have done it all year without Reese Hoskins. Still a darn deep lineup with the likes of Trey Turner, and I think he's going to be important in this series. We saw him get off to that slow start this season after signing that big deal with Philadelphia. He's going to be important at the top or near the top of this lineup because he's a table setter. And of course, when he gets on base with his speed, that could change the dynamic of a game. And then, of course, the big boppers behind him in that lineup, of course, led by Bryce Harper. Now, Bryce Harper is not hitting for power at the rate that he was pre, arm surgery. But nonetheless, Bryce Harper is still a guy that the bigger the stage, the better that he plays. I in the past have criticized Kyle Schwarber as far as his batting average goes during the regular season, but nonetheless, Kyle Schwarber knows how to get hits in the postseason. He did it with the Red Sox. He did it, of course, with the Cubs, and he's doing it again with Philadelphia. Then, you got JT Realmuto, Alec Baum, Bryson Stott, Nick Castellanos. So this is a very deep Philadelphia lineup over here. CJ, you're saying, well, you're going to be at the game tomorrow. First and foremost, enjoy and have yourself some fun. Hopefully, you don't develop laryngitis from yelling too hard out there at the game. But nonetheless, I'm sure you're going to have yourself a very good time. You're saying that the Braves need to bring back the music with the tomahawk chop, make it real loud. Definitely, because I will say this, and CJ, please feel free to chime in on this. I felt like last year when the Braves and Phillies met in the divisional round, it was kind of like a lethargic atmosphere down there in Georgia for the Braves. Not Tampa Bay Rays-ish, at the Trop, no, but it was still kind of lethargic. Day games and, people were just going through the motions. And when that series shifted to Philadelphia last year, Citizens Bank, of course, that place was going crazy. I think it was the Phillies first trip to the postseason in about a decade. So the fans down there were hungry for it. And I think that the Phillies fed off of that. And I think the Braves fans, obviously, they need to come out and, show this team some love. You're talking about the best team record wise in Major League Baseball this year. You got to show those guys some love. But nonetheless, I talked about the Phillies lineup. You also got to look at the Braves lineup. I mean, we just talked about Matt Olson and Ronald Acuna Jr. and what they mean. This Braves team led all of baseball in home runs this year, and I think that factors into something. You got the likes of Marcelo Zuna, Austin Riley, who's flying under the radar just due to the seasons that Matt Olson and Ronald Acuna Jr. have. And then Ozzy Albies is back, and then you got Michael Harris. Again, it's this one right here. I think this is going to be the most tightly contested of all four of these divisional round series. Again, like I said, both of these teams are capable of winning it all. You're talking about the last two National League champions right here, and of course, in the case of the Braves, they won it all in 2021, while the Phillies came up short. CJ, you're saying that you hope that the we sweep them, and obviously, you're hoping that the Braves sweep the Phillies. I don't see a sweep happening. The Phillies are a good team, and they're not going to go down without a fight. And it's one of those for me. I look at it like this: if you're looking at it historically, the Phillies have always beaten the Braves in the postseason. They did it back in 1993 in the LCS, and then of course, they did it last year. You just can't. At the same time, you just can't just rely on history forever. It's very tough to beat a team 2 years in a row in the postseason. It can be done. Don't get me wrong. It has been done in the past and it will continue to get done in the future at times. But it's still not to say that it is not easy. And again, I'm not trying to sound like a broken record, but both of these teams are darn good. And for me, honestly, I could flip a coin on this one and decide the winner. That's how much I've gone back and forth with it. Like I said, it's a shame that this is a 5 game series as opposed to a 7 game series, but nonetheless, I'm going to give the slightest edges to the Atlanta Braves in 5 games. Again, it wouldn't, this one out of all of the series, this would not surprise me if either team won. This is how close that they are. Obviously, two divisional foes meeting 13 times this year. And honestly, and I don't have a vote in this. And I'm not trying to jump off topic here, but I really wish that Major League Baseball would go back to having divisional opponents play each other 19 times. And honestly, I would like to see MLB cut down on the interleague games as well and have more of those games focus on the other divisions within your league, because I mean, at the end of the day, Braves Dodgers is going to be more important for the postseason picture than having the Dodgers play the Chicago White Sox or having the Orioles play the Diamondbacks. Okay, that's all well and good. That's fine. But what's going to have more of an impact on, the postseason picture? Because those are the teams that you got to beat in your league to get to the postseason. But that's a whole nother topic. Nonetheless, I really do wish that this was a 7 game series. But like I said, I'm going to give the slightest edges to Atlanta in this one. And finally, you got the Arizona Diamondbacks getting it on with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So you got two more divisional foes facing each other in the divisional round. Now, for the Dodgers, they've made a habit out of this in recent years as far as facing the divisional foes. In 2017, they beat the Diamondbacks in the first round en route to winning the pennant. In 2020, in the expanded postseason, the Dodgers faced the San Diego Padres in the divisional round and swept them. Then in 2021, of course, that epic with the San Francisco Giants. And then last year, the Dodgers were sent home in 4 games, courtesy of the San Diego Padres. Now, if you're Arizona, you're definitely flying high into this series. I mean, you figure in that divisional round against Milwaukee, the Brewers had the home field advantage, of course. The Brewers jumped out their early leads, but the Diamondbacks never faltered and they found a way to get right back into those games with the home runs. And of course, Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte definitely had a part in that. And this is an opportunity here for them to slay the dragon, if you will, because the Dodgers have casted such an ominous shadow over the National League West for so long against the likes of the Diamondbacks, the Padres, and the Rockies. Of course, the Dodgers have specialized in winning the divisional crowns, but of course, the San Francisco Giants have won more World Series championships in recent history, rather, than the Dodgers are. CJ, let me see what you said real quick before I talk about this series. You're saying I don't know if I agree with the Braves giving Game 1 to Strider or our ace Max Fried. Um, honestly, I'll tell you like this: it's one of those where sometimes you have managers who feel a guy is more comfortable pitching Game 1 or Game 2. You have some managers that also feel that some guys are better suited to pitch on the road in the postseason than at home. And guys tend to alter things around. So maybe it's a gut, here, by the manager of the Braves to say, hey, you know what? Uh, maybe it's like for Brian Snicker thinking, maybe it's an analytics thing from the front office. I don't know. But we're going to wait and see. Obviously, tomorrow we're going to find out if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing for the Braves in that series. But with the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers, this Diamondbacks team, they got a wave of momentum going for themselves right now. Ketel Marte, he's playing some solid ball, as is Corbin Carroll. And then also keep an eye out for Christian Walker in this series. The D-backs got some good pitching, and they had some good pitching all season long, but they really got some good pitching in round number 1 against Milwaukee. Again, the teams that played in round number 1 one of the big disadvantages that you have is you don't have the opportunity now to set your rotation like you would have. But still, I think this is going to be a very good pitching contest tomorrow night at Dodger Stadium. You got Merrill Kelly going for Arizona, and then of course you have the future Hall of Famer and Clayton Kershaw taking a bump for the Dodgers. Now Kershaw, of course, at times has not been a good postseason pitcher, and I think it's going to be very important for this Arizona lineup to try to jump on him right away. Now, you talk about lethargic crowds. Dodger Stadium, even though that the Dodgers basically make the playoffs every year, it's one of those where Dodger Stadium in the postseason gets loud. And even the deeper that the Dodgers go into the postseason, the louder that the fans get. So I think it's going to be very important for Arizona to try to go out there and score some runs early to take that crowd out of the game. Now, of course, for the Dodgers, they're at a disadvantage right now with their pitching staff. And I think that Arizona definitely needs to try to take advantage of that. It's going to be interesting to see who is going to step up for Los Angeles on the mound in this series. And can the Diamondbacks get to that Dodgers bullpen? We got to wait and see. But nonetheless, you still got a lot of talent in this Dodgers lineup. Mookie Betts is having a phenomenal season. Mookie Betts is looking like the guy that he was when he got that MVP with the Red Sox. I'm not saying he's going to be MVP, but he's definitely looking. This, to me, I think this is the best that Mookie Betts has looked since 2020 when he helped the Dodgers win the World Series. Freddie Freeman, a professional hitter. Obviously, CJ, you got to see a lot of him up and close and personal, with his time with the Braves. And then, of course, JD Martinez. This is another guy, is on the downside of his career, but he's still a veteran hitter. He's still a quality hitter, and he knows how to get it done in the postseason. So I'm looking at this series, and the Diamondbacks are going to give the Dodgers all that they can handle and then some. I'm not going to go as far to say that you could flip a coin for this one to see who's going to win. I'm going to give Los Angeles the edge. I think that them losing last year in round number one to San Diego is definitely going to give them a little bit extra motivation. Obviously, the Dodgers are here. Obviously, they want to win the World Series. Obviously, the Diamondbacks want to win the World Series. But nonetheless, I think the Dodgers have a little bit of edge on their shoulder. And this is one thing for the first time in a long time, I don't think a lot of people are talking about the Dodgers heading into the playoffs like they have in recent years. I mean, you figure in 2020, a lot of people expected them to win. The same thing went for 2017 and 2018, and even last year when the Dodgers won more than 100 games. And even going back, to the ownership change about 10 years ago when McCourt sold to this group with Magic Johnson and Stan Kasten and the likes. And of course they had Adrian Gonzalez, Yasiel Puig, Hanley Ramirez, and so many others. Yeah, to your point, the Dodgers are getting old, and of course, uh, losing Trey Turner in free agency last year hurt them. Also, the situation with Julio Urias really changes their rotation, and I think at some point maybe it catches up to the Dodgers in this postseason. I don't know. But I definitely want to see how they look tomorrow night for game one. And the Diamondbacks definitely want to try to go out there and silence them. But when it's all said and done, I'm going to give the slightest edges in this one to the Dodgers in 5 games. I look at all four of these series, and I'm going to say the same thing. I really want to see which of the road teams is going to take the opportunity and make the most of the opportunity, to steal a game, also silence that crowd. That's going to be the biggest thing because you look at the Astros, even though that they've had a lot of success in the postseason over the last 5 or 6 years, Minute Maid Park still gets very loud for the postseason down there. Uh, you look at Camden Yards. Camden Yards is going to be electric, and that's one thing, of course, that we saw a lot of criticism in round one with the Tampa Bay Rays. And, I talked about it the other night and I'll, hit on it right now as far as the fact that you got a darn good baseball team that didn't get and doesn't get a lot of support from the home fans. But whereas the Rays were an embarrassment as far as the attendance went, I don't think you're going to have that problem in round number one. I mean, pardon me, in this round right here, rather. Camden Yards is going to be rocking. When that series shifts to Texas and Globe Life Park, this is the first time that these Rangers fans are going to see a playoff game in that stadium. Technically, not, because, of course, part of the postseason took place there in 2020. And of course, the World Series was there, but that was more, Dodgers fans. This time around, the home folks are going to be able to see their guys. And then, the Astros and Twins. And of course, the Twins fans have to be extremely happy after they finally saw their team win a postseason game. A lot of frustrated people up there in the Upper Peninsula. Then, shifting to the National League, we know what Citizens Bank Park is like in the postseason. We know how things are for the Braves, even going back to the days of Fulton County Stadium. I'm not even talking about Turner Field. I don't think it was as noisy at Turner Field than it was at Fulton County Stadium. And then, of course, the Dodgers, like I always talk about, Dodger Stadium gets loud. It's going to be interesting to see what type of crowd the Diamondbacks get out there in the desert as well. But nonetheless, I think we are in store for some very exciting ball tomorrow. So, CJ, I know that you're going to attend the game. Like I said, have fun, be safe, and enjoy yourself. I'm going to take it all in, on the television and check it out. But like I said, I think we're going to have some good games tomorrow. And then, of course, shifting through the rest of the weekend, you got two game twos on Sunday, where it's the American League. And then after that, it's going to be two game twos in the National League on Wednesday. And then, this is the thing I don't like, that they're alternating days right here between national and American. I really would, I think that they don't want to compete too tough with the NFL tomorrow on Sunday, but I think they'd be better served, even on Monday, because you got people off. Maybe, throwing in having a quadruple header right there, because you would have that opportunity to see more contests. But nonetheless, Tuesday, pardon me, for game two on Sunday, you got Jordan Montgomery for Texas. You got Grayson Rodriguez for Baltimore, and then you got Pablo Lopez for Minnesota and Framber Valdez for Houston. Countering him in games two, and then of course shifting to games two for on the NL side. It looks like it's going to be Zach Wheeler for Philadelphia, and then Max Fried, getting the ball, for the Atlanta Braves. But nonetheless, I think this is going to be a phenomenal round. I think the intensity is there, and there's always intensity for the postseason. There's always intensity for the MLB playoffs, and I think when it's all said and done, I think the fans are going to get their money's worth and then some, as we're going to cut it down from 8 to 4. So let's see who those four teams are going to be when the divisional round kicks off tomorrow. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. CJ, you're saying, I understand why. And of course, this is why with Max Fried and Spencer Strider. But at the same time, Max earned it. They're doing that because of Max's blister, and he pitched a sim game 2 days ago. Yeah, I listen. I totally understand that. They definitely, blisters. Pitchers are a different breed, if you will, and blisters, fingernails, things like that. When you have an issue with one or the other or both, you know, you're gonna approach those pitchers with the kid gloves, especially starters, in comparison to relievers, especially this time of the year. So I think the Braves, they're gonna do what they feel is best. Pushing them back a start. Let's see how things look in game one tomorrow night with Strider. And let's see how the Braves look, and let's see how everybody else looks. But nonetheless, like I said before, this already has been a solid playoff. I don't think this time around we're going to see four sweeps in this round in comparison to round number one. CJ, I know that you're hoping for a sweep for Atlanta over Philadelphia. Like I said, it ain't happening, buddy. But nonetheless, I think we're going to be in for some darn good baseball this time around. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. Once again, my name is William Martin. Thanks once again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Enjoy the action this weekend. Everybody be safe, be well, and have a good one. I'll see you soon.